it's just a matter of time. And I think precious metals, hard assets. I mean, central banks have been buying gold for the last 2 years at a rate that we haven't talked about the real meat of it,
Yeah,
right? Ever since
yeah.
the final stages of Basel III, and that might get beyond people's understanding. But I'm going, gold is a tier one asset, but nobody believes that, but it just is, right? And that's why you see, outside the G20, all these bigger central banks buying gold at rates that we've never seen before. That gives me confidence. I cannot get the timing right, but I know I'm right.
Today with me is Bart Rourke. He is the president and CEO of Scotty Resources, a gold and silver exploration mining company located in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia in Canada. So it's a safe jurisdiction, a good place to be in. We will talk about it more on later. Bart, first of all, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Great. So, Bart, before we talk more about Scotty Resources, exciting projects, great names on your share registry, let's talk about the mining and the stock market situation in general, right? I mean, it doesn't matter whether you have good news or bad news as a mining company right now, your stock is probably down if you have like a 5-year chart. Let's talk about the general economics here. I mean, we do have second inflationary wave probably coming up soon. We probably have higher rates for longer. Everybody was expecting something different, but still everybody's investing into, let's say the tech bubble. Our mining space is still bleeding, but that reminds me, for example, of the 70s, right? It took a while for the people to understand inflation. What did it cause? What will it do to my money, right? And in the 70s, few years later, it just took a while, and then boom, gold went up, gold stocks went up. Do you see similarities here? And do you think we are on the bottom of the juniors now? Would that be a great timing to invest in the market in general? What are your general thoughts on that?
Well, I have gone through a few cycles. I'm almost 60 years old now, and I worked in mining and I worked in tech before the tech bubble bust from 98 to 2000. I ran an online grocery store. Mm. Imagine if we kept going with that project. So, and previous to that, I was in mining. Now, in the 70s, I was a teenager. Life was different back then than it is today. I try and tell my kids, people didn't have two cars. They had one car. And, in North America, anyways, I know Europe's a little bit different, but now everybody's got two brand new cars, or they look. Anyway, so it's a way different time. And, as a 12-year-old, I had a job that paid me $12 an hour, which was an extraordinary amount of money back then because there were no employees and inflation. And, I was pulling weeds at a little construction site close to where we lived. And so things were different back then than they are today, but they're similar in the sense that, is it the right time to buy into hard assets or precious metal equities? And yeah, buy when there's blood on the streets and nobody wants these things. When it's the hardest time to buy, it's probably when you should buy in any sector. Now my timing's been wrong. I'm going into my 9th year on this file, but I still haven't lost any enthusiasm for what I see. But yeah, when it's hard to buy is when you should be buying. And I think our day will come. But when you look at gold equities, I mean, you did say over the last 5 years. But what's encouraging to me in the last, just say in the last year, is it's always I'm the last guy to move junior exploration. There's no question. But when I see producers and, specifically I like Kinross and Eco, and you look at these, they're moving. And so we need those producers to make money. So there's a rotation out. Hey, I've made a good profit. Let's recycle that money. And that's just the natural rhythm of these markets. So I do see those green shoots presenting themselves. Makes me excited, but right now it's shocking. Like, I mean, we've had, in my opinion, the best year ever outside of drill results, and it has to do with Michael Gray picking us up for coverage and Franco-Nevada giving us just under $10 million in raw speedy and such. These are things I've dreamt about for a very long time, and they've come to fruition. But yet the equity markets are what they are. I mean, I'm looking at my chart right now, and Yeah, I'm 18 cents Canadian dollars. All these big names that have been supporting us, they don't have 18-cent stock. So is it a good price? Yes, I think so. Uh, I think once we get through this US election, and everyone's freaked out where everyone was expecting interest rate cuts, and maybe that's not going to happen, or maybe there will be one. I don't know, and nor does anybody else. If you're to put a gun to my head, I think we do see one right in September, right? Front run the U.S. election, and but I think inflation is here to stay. But I'm wrong lots, right? I thought a hard landing, and right now it doesn't seem that hard. So what do I know? I mean, I'm constantly learning. The smarter I am, the dumber I am.
Well, to be fair here, right? Europe is basically in a recession. China is struggling. The US, they have their numbers. The question is whether you believe the numbers or not. So the global economy doesn't look that good, but as you already said, we're not in a recession yet when it comes to the US. That's quite a thing. We do have an election year, not just in the US. We do have this year and next year together, 2/3 of the world will elect new leaders, which basically will cause inflation because everybody wants to be the best. Everybody wants to stimulate the markets. And for me, it seems to be we're in exactly this situation. And it's a good situation to buy probably junior stocks, no investment advice here, but we have to buy the best stocks, right? I mean, we've done interviews with Rourke, with Frank Holmes, all the big names, you name them. But they're always telling you, you get wealthy in these situations if you buy when blood is on the street, but you have to pick the right stock. And we have to find out today whether you're one of these stocks. But before we talk about more Scotty Resources, let's talk about you as a person. Because I'm always telling the people, the CEO is the most important thing, right? Sure, you have to have gold in the ground, but in the end, it's not the government, it's not the drill rig itself, it's not the team, it's the CEO who's deciding where my money as investor goes in. You're spending my money. So maybe you can just give us a little bit more background information about you. We touch base on a couple of things. What are your successes? Why are you the right person for Scotty?
Well, if you want skin in the game, and that's an attribute that you're looking for, I certainly check that box. Whether I'm a great CEO or not, that's yet to be determined on this file. But I do have a 9-year track record going in to my 9th year. So if one really wants to dig in and do due diligence, you can see how I look after the shareholders' money, and I self-funded it for the first 3 years. Until my first drill program in 2019, I owned 19.9% of the company, and I was lending the company money because you just can't breach that 20%. Now, I think I'm a little bit different than a lot of CEOs, maybe because I'm casual and I speak more like an investor than I do a CEO, but I've been lucky enough that I've had financial success in the past. It's been a long time. I did some monumental things in energy, which allowed me to retire at a very young age at 38 years old. And, I was in the right place at the right time. I was in Calgary. I come out of mining, out of tech, and then went into real estate and energy. From a investment point of view, I ran a little, what would be called an EMD today. I had a little shop in Calgary, but everything worked at this time. And long story short, so I put together a company called Athabasca Oil Sands, and it was a $6 billion IPO. And so I was lucky enough to be on the front end of that. And what I did at 38 years old, so this is 20 years ago, oh my gosh, is I moved to a small town to raise my kids. And, and I coached sports, and I thought I was never going to work ever again. But here I am. The Lord has ways of altering things. And so, this was a project. I was generally a real estate and energy investor, but I was just trying to help out some local guys from where I moved to, and I raised my kids in a town very close to where this asset is. And so it was just kind of by accident. And here I am 9 years later. I've never worked harder on anything, but I'm operating now. Before I was more on the financial end out there, bringing stories to people and collecting the commissions on that. And that seemed a lot easier than doing what I do now. But it's going to make me a better investor. And I still am a pretty active investor in still in energy, still in real estate. And now I'm in this industry. So, yeah, it's been good. My biggest challenge is I can never get the timing right, but I'm fortunate enough that I can be patient. My biggest challenge is keeping my team enthused and because it's demoralizing if you haven't had a few cycles where you understand that it's gradually and then suddenly and then you look really smart. I still believe in that, and as long as we don't color outside the lines, I believe our project stands head and shoulders against many. There's a lot of good projects out there that have good value, not just Scotty. But I think we are, ones that you should consider because we check the boxes that you should check, whether it's Scotty or any other story. And that's right jurisdiction, infrastructure, access to capital, the right team, and I'm sandwiched between two gold mines. Newmont just bought my neighbor to the north, and that's the second time the Bruce Jack asset's been bought. First Newcrest bought it, now Newmont, and then Ascot, which is the old Premier Mill. I've been waiting for this for a very long time, but they're actually in production now. Again, it's Q1 of production, so it doesn't really matter. They're just figuring out, you don't buy your Porsche and rev her up to 7,000 RPM right away, right? So they need a quarter to kind of grease the wheels. But I think it's going to be a lot easier for all of us to value what is Ascot worth by the end of the year. And quite frankly, with the gold price as high as they are right now, I think people are missing a lot of opportunity in many stories. But I think we're in the right area. We've been lucky enough that we've had really good success with the drill bit. We just happened to have it during COVID when nobody cared, but eventually that'll work in our favor. We're in great shape financially, and we've largely kept the team together. So my geologists know the rocks year after year after year. That's important. Geology is complicated. You want people to have a good understanding of what they're doing, and you can only do that through experience. So I think we're in really good shape. It hasn't been fun, but again, we recognize we're luckier than a lot of other really good companies out there. So we just want to be humble and just get to work. We're 4 weeks away from drills turning right now, so I'm excited.
Yes, sounds really, really good. And it's good that you're saying that, right? You don't have to work. You're retired at the age of 38. So it's good that you're mentioning that. I mean, you're retired at early age, right? You don't have to do it, but you're doing it, which brings me to the question, why you're doing it. Are you so passionate with Scotty Resources? I mean, you've had major financial success, and you also, with Scotty, which is also interesting for our viewers, I believe, you have some big names on your share registry. We touch base on some of them. You have Ross Beatty, who owns roughly 5% of the company. You have a great deal with Franco-Nevada royalty company, which was funded by Frank Holmes a couple of years ago now, which was a great success of him. We know Frank, our community knows Frank for quite a while. Also, Frank himself with US Global, he is also a shareholder. You have Newmont as a neighbor, all these big names. You are excited too. Why are you so excited? Please tell us more about that. What are all these people with great names, what are they expecting of Scotty Resources?
Well, it's hard for me to speak for them, but my assumption is, and what I'm out there selling to I really went after the big whales, right? Because the market can be fickle, and what I've learned, the stock market's way different than when I learned it in the late 80s. It's people want instant gratification, so I've kind of gone after it, and my storyboard and what I was selling is there's going to be a transaction, right? Whether I've accumulated a very large land position in one of the most desirable areas in the world, sandwiched two mines. Now I assume we're attractive for one of those mines on either side of me, But now with our exploration efforts, we still haven't crossed out that we could be standalone. And so there's a transaction. That's what we're working towards, rather than getting someone excited here, buy my stock for 20 cents and they move it off at 25 cents and, make a 20% commission or a profit on. And I think a lot of the stock market and the younger people, that's what they're looking for. They want to be traders, right? Where I'm still a buy and hold guy. And it's just, because trading, I could never run a company and trade because I would have to have 100% of my time looking at my screen if I wanted to be a trader. And I know lots of traders, but I know very few successful traders. I know lots of traders that say they're successful because they only tell you of their 1 or 2 turns that they have. But I'm not a trader. And so when I position the Scotty value proposition to these larger names, it's, I believe that they're there for the transaction. Today at, and I'll speak in Canadian dollars, Scotty's worth $50 million market cap. We believe that when, it's worth a lot more than that. And again, there's a few steps that we need to solidify that. But if you've done your due diligence, I think it's easy to see that, value is all about comparison, right? That's at the end of the day, it's just how it works. And I think we're, maybe we haven't attended to the retail market as strong as we should. I'm not sure, but at this time, I think at $50 million valuation, you can see that when a transaction happens, we'll get priced appropriately. I don't know what that price is, but I'm feeling very comfortable that it's a lot more than a $50 million market cap. So that's how I sold it to these bigger entities. They know mining much more than I do. And when I did energy, that's what I did too. I just went after the largest names in the industry, and it's just easier for me to sell to these perhaps bigger people that might intimidate. I want to get there because I'm not pretending I'm the smartest guy in the world. However, I've been successful. It is, it's through energy and never give up attitude. But I can lean on them. Not only do I have their money to help, further the project along, they're also able to give me advice and we've seen this situation. And so I kind of lean on a lot of those bigger names and just good communication. And when I have such a short registry that owns over 50% of the company, it's easy for me to kind of get the feel for where is everybody at mentally. Now I get scared because it's gone on so long is people just get tired. That's a natural human reaction, and I've owned lots of stocks for, 15, 20 years. You get tired of them, same old story type thing. So, these are things I need to be worried about with these. I don't want to take these large names for granted, but so far so good. We're proud of what we've done and how we've managed that money and what we've accomplished. When you look at how much I've raised over the last 5 years and how many meters went into the ground, that's something that I wish everyone would compare.
Absolutely.
I get meters in the ground and that's my job. My job's quite simple is, hire the right team. And I've been blessed, lucky to have, the smartest thing I ever did was hire Thomas Mumford. That's my VPX. You never know what you're going to get. I had a feel, but I mean, this guy's a rock star, so to speak. But we'd be nowhere without him. He redefined geology, stepped out and proven up some and they were just ideas, and they've worked out fantastically for us from a technical point of view. But it's just, manage the money. And again, it was all my money at first. For the first 3 years, I self-funded it. It was never meant to be this type of a chapter in my life. Mm-hmm. And you did ask me a question, and I talk a lot, I'm sorry. You did ask a question at the beginning of it is, why are you doing it and what's the motivation? And the reality is my kids have seen me, right? They didn't know what I did up until, 9 years ago. We're living in a small town and my wife and I were just participating in the community, coaching sports. But everyone's like, hey, what does your dad do? And, and it's a real, difficult question to ask. Actually, I don't even know what I do. I invest in companies and sometimes I actively participate or sometimes I just write checks. But the motivation for this is I said, look, I've never ran one of these things, guys. You can do anything in your life, because they were still high school age. Now my daughter just got just graduated from university, going to do her MBA, and my boy's third year business school. So, but they've got to participate from day one and seen everything, the evolution of this company, and going, look, I've never done it before, but it's not that difficult. It's hard work. It's just not hard.
Yep.
It's just perseverance. And so my motivation really is to show them that anything can be done, and to what level of success this becomes, it's not going to be a failure. And they saw me just, get frustrated and took it over. And so it's just about finishing. You gotta, in life, you gotta start strong, but more importantly, in the rules that I'm trying to teach my kids, is finishing strong is so much more important. And, and so I'm trying to take my own advice that I tried to sell to my kids and just finish strong, because it's been challenging. It's very, very challenging, but we're blessed. We're one of the luckier guys out there.
Great. Yeah. I mean, obviously your strategy was not too bad so far in your life, right? Hodl the stocks, as the Bitcoin people would say, buy and hold instead of trading. Go out to the big guys, ask them for money, pitch them the company. They liked it. They invested. All of this sounds really good. And you have a purpose, right? You're doing it for your family, for your kids, for your community, obviously for yourself and your shareholders, which is really good to know. And you have skin in the game, as we already said. You still own shares of the company, quite a few. You financed the first years, which is also very, very good. But in the end, you don't just need big names. You're sure you need a good CEO, as I already said, but you also need a good project, right? Let's maybe take a few minutes, talk about the project real quick. I mean, you have a good infrastructure. I did my due diligence. You have a power line nearby. You have existing mines, but you also have a pre-production mine on your ground. Tell us what makes your project so exciting. Tell us more about the production mine, which was producing in the 80s. What makes Scotty Resources overall so interesting for you? Maybe you can pitch us your company real quick.
Sure. So I can tell you what really enticed me, and this started in 2015. I didn't take this company over until 2016, but it was infrastructure, right? So the little town I was retired in is called Smithers. But that's where the operation office for KSM, Seabridge, and that's where the operation office for Pritium was, right? So these are two projects that are really, garnering a lot of attention. Well, I'm on the front end of a company called Black Diamond Camps, and so we're deploying equipment right at the Scotty Gold Mine site to build the Bruce Jack power line. So it's a $50 million power line. And so I was kind of up on site. I mean, I wasn't working with Black Diamond, but very close, and still am. Steve Stein's on my board. He started that company from a napkin to a $2 billion company, really successful remote workforce accommodation company. So we're putting these trailers so people could live in while they built the power line. And that's when I from real estate, I've been really successful in real estate, searching out where infrastructure is happening. And then if you can get the land and land bank before the infrastructure is built, it's not super exciting, but it really makes things safe. Or that's I've been doing this for 25 years, 30 years now. And it's worked out fantastically for me. Although the timeline could be, you can never get the timing right. But so that's what got me involved with Scotty, is that this equipment was here. I saw a green hydro line beside a past producing mine, which from my due diligence, and I was very naive at that time, thinking I was smart, here's a past producing gold mine. It produced a ½ ounce per ton in the early 1980s. It was one of Don McLeod's first mines. But the fatal flaw for Don McLeod at that time is in 1980, gold was at a high price, call it $750 an ounce. And this mine, and so he found a vein on surface and started mining. His fatal flaw was he borrowed $20 million from the Royal Bank of Canada. He didn't raise equity, he borrowed money. And so when the commodity price rolled over from $750 to $300 by 1984-ish, that 22% interest that he paid on $20 million, even though this was still recovering over a ½ ounce per ton, I mean, the recovery is 16.2 grams. My tailings, the historic tailings have 2.2. His head grade was 20 grams. Well, that's unheard of today, right? The cutoff grade was 10 grams per ton back in the 1980s. So that's what it's like, oh, past producing mine, hydropower. It was the infrastructure that, and Seabridge was doing very well. It certainly wasn't where it's at today. It's the largest gold deposit in the world. But you could see that Pritium was real. And I played on the Pritium hockey team and da 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 da. So I knew a little bit there. But my fatal flaw, it was only 400 hectares of the company I took over. To me, it looked like, oh, it's a whole mountain. It's huge. How big does a mine have to be? Well, that's when my education started. But now we're at 58,500 hectares. I put together a district scale piece of land, mostly contiguous. That's important in Canada. And, so we can give that scale. Not only have we found a deposit that's going to be hopefully economical, blah, 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 but we can also offer exploration potential. And there is Scotty Gold Mine's a past producing mine, but I have 7 past producing mines in total on our tenure. That's extraordinary. A lot of them are smaller mines from the 40s and 50s, but yet, hey, you want to find gold or silver. We do have a lot of polymetallic as you get south of the Scotty Gold Mine. And so one of the tasks I did in that first 3 years when I was self-funding it is I just started accumulating land. It was, for me in the energy business, there was a company called Crescent Point Energy when it was brand new. It just started buying, get scale and land. So it was kind of my idea. Let's make this land large. And so we have one of the largest packages in the southern end of the Golden Triangle, and we have road and power to a lot of the land. And so it was infrastructure really that I thought, oh, how can I lose? I never believed I'd be here 9 years. So yeah, here we are today. So, we've got that past producing mine. We've actually drilled 60,000 meters, 40,000 of it in and around Scotty Gold. We built a good business case. We owe no property payments for anything. Everything's paid for 100%. And it's just time. And, we should be in good shape when these things turn around. I'm really excited that Ascot's, going to be pouring doré by the end of the year, like real doré. I'm sure they're pouring it as of right now, but again, give them time to figure out how to run that mill. Just walk down the hill, never run down the hill. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really, really good. I think we've got a lot of insights. We're still on the surface here, right? I mean, we could dig way deeper here on all the exciting things. But I mean, just to summarize, you really have a good share registry. You do have a good deal with Franco-Nevada, one of the well-known and successful royalty companies that we have. You seem to be a good CEO from my understanding. I mean, you did your homework, you got the right people on board, you got a good team, you're here for longer, you have skin in the game. And maybe you can just summarize us real quick for all the investors out there, maybe from a retail perspective. What do they get if they buy shares of Scotty Resources? Maybe give us your 3 main things that they get within like 1 minute. What do they buy?
Sure. So again, we have not published a resource. So this is the next thing. People, oh, where's the resource? Resource. I think what you can see from the Franco deal, which is considered the best technical team in the world, that's up for debate, but I mean, it's certainly one of the most respected. They've never given money to a pre-resource company like us. So of course they've done their internal calculations as we have. Mm. So you can expect in due time as a resource, we will be, obviously, these are one of the things we're working towards. We've got a good handle on Blueberry. One of the tasks we're doing this year is we're getting underground at Scotty because there's a 700 drill hole database there, but the core didn't exist for me to go relog the core and stuff. So I got to do a couple confirmation holes underground, and then that would add to that resource that we put out. So I think these are reasonable assumptions that you potentially will see something by the end of our drill season that maybe we put out a resource. The fact that, Pritium was bought for $3.5 billion from Newcrest. It's attributed that it's $4.5 billion that Newmont bought the Bruce Jack assets for. we're in the right jurisdiction. With the amount of money gone into our immediate area in the last 5 years is extraordinary, more so than when Eskay Creek and Snip Mine were going, right? We got the Lundins, we got some of the biggest names, tech, everybody's in the area now, which from an investment point of view, you go, no one's packing up tent and going off to the next hottest area. This has established itself as an area that's going to be there for a while for mineral exploration. We've, again, sandwiched between two mills. We've done the metallurgy work on our own accord, that we know our ore at Blueberry and Scotty is compatible with the Brucejack mill, which is a gravity mill, and the CIL plant at Ascot. So we're compatible with both mills. That ore is there. Neither of those mines have super long lives. So this, when the market wants to value these things, I do believe that just, if we don't make it, nobody makes it. And you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I mean, it's no fun right now for us and a lot of other people, but I go, you can see the business case of 1 + 1 could equal 5. And it's just a matter of timing. So we're there. And again, because I have a 9, I'm going into my 9th year, pretty easy to judge my track record. And every video I've ever done is on the back of our webpage. Look in the media section. So you can, if you really want to do due diligence, and everyone should do due diligence, yes. Right? Not trust me or you or anybody. Like, really, everybody's up to themselves. But you can really judge if I've did everything I'm going to say year after year after year. And I'm very proud of that. And so even though my interviews, when I was really naive, and I was, we just put them out there. And so you can see the evolution of how we've gotten to where we are, and we're proud, and it's just a matter of timing, and we're in the right area. Obviously we're proving up great gold, and that the validation comes from these bigger names. I mean, it's not like I'm fooling them or my great sales abilities. There's no such thing as a bad mining story. Right? I go to every conference. Everybody's got the best project. And so, I think from a retail point of view, if you're an investor, at least you can get in at the same price as all these marquee names and or even a little bit cheaper today. So, we're not deterred, and we've never been stronger financially, and the price has never been lower. So that's a good, I believe that would be something that one should consider. And, it's just a matter of time. And I think precious metals, hard assets. I mean, central banks have been buying gold for the last 2 years at a rate that we haven't talked about the real meat of it, right? Ever since the final stages of Basel III, and that might get beyond people's understanding, but I'm going, gold is a tier 1 asset, but nobody believes that, but it just is, right? And that's why you see, outside the G20, all these bigger central banks buying gold at rates that we've never seen before. That gives me confidence. I cannot get the timing right, but I know I'm right. Yeah.
I think that sums up really, really good. Thank you, Bart, for your insights, for sharing your story with us, obviously, and to give us some insights into Scotty Resources. Really interesting. As you already said, this is no investment advice, and everybody should do their own due diligence. But I think what people can do is listen to these interviews, check the company presentation, check who else is invested into the company, do their check boxes, and then you have to decide what to do with your money. Bart will be the man who's responsible for your money, right, as the CEO, as I said earlier. So, Bart, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your insights, and I'm really looking forward to talking again to you soon, pretty soon, in the near future.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Bart, thank you. Bye-bye.